Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first podcast of 2025. And what a great way to start it off. My guest is a kayaker, a photographer, a wife, a mom to two fur babies, and most importantly, she is an up and coming wellness competitor. I'm also honored to say that for as long as I've been doing this, I do not have the pleasure of meeting a lot of my guests. And Julie and I actually work out in the same gym. We share some niceties, and it's glad and I'm honored to have her on the show today. Allow me to introduce Julia DiLuzio. Julia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I was really honored when you asked. Thank you.
So I guess it's funny because you don't remember when you first came into, I'm going to give a shout out to Uncaged Fitness in Worcester, where we both work
Mhm.
out.
Yeah.
I was actually working the front desk and you came in with Derek and he was wearing a VMI hat. And I thought he was the athlete and you were
Yeah.
kind of off to the side. So I didn't see you. And he said, no, no,
Yeah.
no. He said, my wife, Julia is. And I said, oh, okay. He's like, I'm VMI via association.
He is. He loves the products. And just so you know, I'm going to have to tell him that because he's going to be like, oh, so they thought I was the sponsored athlete. So it's going to, yeah, his head's going to be a little big for a little bit in the house, but I'll let him have this one. He loves VMI. He's really in tune with supplements and ingredients and accuracy labels. And I tried VMI before I was even a ambassador. I actually used Brielle and Cody's code, the
Okay.
owners of Uncaged, and I really like the products and I really believe in them. And I wouldn't stand behind anything that wasn't, something that I believe in that I really think is quality.
Yep.
And him too. So he actually just volunteers to do like tables with me to
Yep.
like get the word out. VMI, it's a I don't want to say it's a small company, but it's a company in Long Island, New York. So they've been VMI since 2015, so they've been around for a little while. But supplements are competitive, and there's a lot of quality out there, but there's a lot of
Crap.
so it's really refreshing to have them on my team backing me up, but also the fact that it's just a quality product. I'm like, this is an easy sell, honestly.
Chris was a guest. Chris Alessia was a guest about a year ago. He's another one that's did a fantastic transformation. And
Yes.
obviously, to give a plug to VMI, I don't know what they've done over the last 2 years, but they were kind of moving along nice and slowly. But then all of a sudden, they shifted, and I feel like they've just like entered and arrived.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so happy for them. I mean, it's there's good people behind at the top. There's good people. There's great ambassadors. There's great athletes. I think there's like 7 or 8 of us now, and we're all hardworking. We all work together. We all work, with the ambassadors and just with everybody at VMI. I visited about 3 times now at the headquarters, and it's
Okay.
just it's good people and good product.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
So, Julia, I want to start off here. Sources suggest that you did a show based on the trophy or the prize that was being given. Let's start off kind of as a curveball here. Let's talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit.
Do you want to see it?
Sure.
So yeah, so it's a main show. It was the main show at that time. I don't think they have it this year coming up, but they did have it in 2023. My original first show that I wanted to do was the Rhode Island show, which was May 6th.
Okay.
The reason why I tell you this is because I threw a loop at my poor coach at the time. The main show was April 15th, and I saw that it was very close by to Derek's parents' house in Agunquit.
Okay.
So I'm like, why don't I just do this show? The prize is a Thor's hammer, which was the coolest prize, I think, definitely the coolest prize I've ever won. And we're big, Thor fans. Who isn't, right? And Captain America and
Yep.
Marvel. So I just threw a curveball at my coach and said, "Can I be ready 4 weeks earlier than we expected?" She's like, "Yeah." And
Wow.
so,
Okay.
yeah, so it's right here. Actually, let me go grab it.
That's awesome. I love
It's
it.
so heavy. But yeah,
Wow.
yeah, this is like it's all I wanted. It was an amazingly run show. As like my first show, it was perfect. Everything, hair, makeup. I love the look. My peak was great.
Yep.
It was run very, very smoothly. It was like a golden ticket for a show. It was just perfect. Like nothing went wrong. And it was just such a blast too. And it was very athlete oriented. So that was huge too.
Okay.
So I don't want to say it's my favorite show because they're all kind of my favorites in one
Yep.
way or another. But as a first show, it was just from start to finish, it was just perfect as can be.
It's funny because I competed many years ago, and I've always had plaques. Well, plaques is what I've won. I didn't win a trophy, but I'm
Mhm.
very partial to swords. Like, I wanna do a show with a sword.
Yes. Sword, they have like tomahawks, they have
Yes.
shields. I'm like, yeah, we got to make a collection here, but we'll see.
So, take us back here, because I know you born in Poland, is that what I understand?
Yeah, yeah. I was born in Poland. I came to the United States when I was 4.
Excellent. And
Yeah.
now what made you get into the land of competition? I guess, were you sports in high school, or what was that like growing up?
Yeah, yeah. My parents are very competitive, and they've always been athletes. My sister's been an athlete, so we're always every time we play family games, we're very competitive as well. And so it's always been in my upbringing, athletics and competition. I know how to win, but I also know how to lose, which I think was very, very important growing up and learning that. Um, and every single time that bitter taste of losing came about, my father and mother would always be like, well, then just, you've got to make yourself better, not bitter. So I loved the progression of just getting better after, you don't succeed or you don't have an easy win.
Yep.
So that's how I was raised essentially. And I had found after I played tennis very, very competitively.
Oh, nice.
I played soccer and field hockey too, but it was mainly for conditioning for the tennis season. So all throughout high school, I played tennis. All throughout college, I played tennis. And then after college, it's kind of like all those competitive athletes. They're like, what's next? I need something else to drive me.
Yeah.
And I actually, in 2014 to be exact, I looked into bodybuilding. And, Jay Cutler's a Worcester guy. I'm in
Mhm.
the Worcester area. Like, it's not anything that's foreign in this area. If you're like into fitness, you know who Jay. Everyone knows. Hopefully,
Sure.
everyone knows who Jay Cutler is, right? So I always knew about it. I looked at the female divisions, and I really liked the look of Bikini at the time, which is now, funny enough, the new fit model criteria that they just
Mhm.
released. So at that point, I was like looking up to like Courtney King, Ashley Kaltwasser was on the scene. Um, you know, there was India Paulino, all these like bikini girls that I was like, wow, like they have muscle. They're beautiful, and like that's going to be the next challenge for me. And I tried it and I failed miserably. I was in like
Yeah.
I was in like a 24-week prep. So it was like a long prep. I had a lot of weight to lose at that time.
Okay.
And also just being an athlete, I was kind of going against my genetics. And I didn't have the large legs that I have now, but they were pretty muscular at the time from soccer and all the sports that I played. So I had to kind of diet down, cardio down my legs, and then not do legs, which I love doing
Yeah.
legs. Like I just love working my legs in whatever way I can. So I was, there's a point of prep where I don't want to say miserable, but there's a grind. This was me being miserable. Like I couldn't do what I loved, working legs. I was just on cardio for a long period of time. I
Wow.
was like, maybe this isn't for me, And there were other divisions as well, but I just don't think that I had the muscular density for them, like figure and physique and bodybuilding, of course. And I really liked the look of bikini, so I was just like, you know what? Maybe this just isn't for me.
Okay.
So then I went into like the CrossFit world for a few years, and I was competing in CrossFit for a while and barbell cycling and just around girls that really had that lower body, muscle mass. And it was
Mhm.
like, wow, these are my people, like they're all athletes. They all look like soccer players, pretty much, all these women. So I really took a fawn to CrossFit for a while. And then wellness came on the scene, and I was just like, what is this division? And I kind of knew about it because in Europe they were launching it, obviously South America they were launching it, and there was like, the internet was wild, and there was like peaks of it coming through like a few months before.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, I really hope this division like lands in the US. And sure enough it did. And so for the past couple years I told myself, I'm like, well, this is going to be the division that I'm going to stay in and commit to. So I need to put in the work. the
Yep.
muscle density. Like I obviously had that muscle. I'm 40 years old, so I have some muscle maturity that I've accrued over the years. But this is a different look, and I really have to form bodybuild my way into it. I knew what I wanted to bring to the stage. I told my coach, I said, you may think I'm crazy right now, but I want to bring a really lights out package on my first show.
Of course.
And she might have thought I was crazy, but at that time she was like, all right, I believe in you. And we linked up and we did pretty good. So, and I loved it. I loved it. As soon as I walked off stage, I was like, wow, this is going to be a problem, because now I found my new, I found my new tennis.
Yep.
So, and I really just, I adore it.
Was the main show your first show, or had you done a show prior to that?
No, the main show was my first show. I was a true novice.
Wow. You mentioned a 24-week prep? Did you have a coach for that, or were you kind of flowing solo?
I did. I did have a coach. She was out of Rhode Island, so she was pretty local as well.
Okay.
But yeah, she was just like, you know what, maybe this, maybe that division isn't for you. You could have done very well, because I was very, very lean. I was just 4 weeks out when I pulled out of the show, so
Yeah.
out of the prep. So who knows what would have happened. I would have gone up against Angelica Texieri. I know that she was
Okay.
at that show, and
Yeah.
I think that was one of her first shows. So it would have been cool to do that looking back, but I'm like, I was just like, I really, for whatever reason, I just couldn't, pull through for that last 4 weeks. And I was just like, I'm miserable. But there's, like I said, there's a level of toughness that's in prep, but this was just, yeah, it was just different. I didn't feel like I belonged in that division, looking back on it now.
So do you do the two shows, and then I know, did you do a show before the Arnold? Because you did the Arnold this year too, correct?
I did.
The
Yeah.
Arnold Amateur?
Last year. Yeah. It feels like it's still 24.
Well,
So
I
I
guess,
get it.
yeah, 24
Yeah.
this year now, yeah.
Yeah, so I did the main show, but I still needed to get my national qualification, because that's obviously the goal, to go to nationals. And I had to do the Rhode Island show, which is what I was planning on doing anyways. And then I went right into my off season. There was a lot of people that had kind of asked me like, hey, you should do Universe, because it was actually right after there.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, I need a break. Like, I really want to grow. I really want to bring an undeniable physique to the next stage that I'm in. I really want to make some big improvements. So I got my feedback and went into an off season, and then we went into the Arnold Amateur in March. It was March 1st.
Okay.
So I went through another round of holidays prepping, which is always fun, with an Italian and a Polish family. But it was fun. It was interesting. My family gets it now at this point. But so it was the Arnold, and then went into a slight. I don't even want to say it was a slight off season or an even off season. It was just a few months of a diet break, and then I had targeted the North American show in August, the end of August, and that was my last show.
So I tried looking up, did you win the Arnold Amateur?
So I won my class,
Okay.
but
Okay.
with the Arnold Amateur, the person that gets the pro card needs to win overall. So they only
Okay.
give out one pro card in wellness. So I believe I was second in the overall. So I just missed the beat.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm gonna break here in between the Maine and New York and the Arnold. What were you kind of working on? Was it overall leg development, or were you doing more quads, more hamstrings? Like where were you working
Yeah.
specifically?
So after I got my feedback, it was actually Rhode Island. So after I got my feedback from Rhode Island to go into my first off season, it was basically just bring everything up.
Okay.
It's I don't want to say it's a size game in wellness, but I didn't have the size to be competitive. At least I thought, on a national stage.
Okay.
You need a little bit more mass. You need more glutes. You need more legs. You need more hamstrings. So all over. So I worked on that. I didn't miss a meal. I didn't miss cardio. It was a very structured off season, extremely. Of course, I had my free meals during that week,
Yeah.
but it was very, very structured. Everything was measured. Everything was accounted for. I didn't miss a workout, so it was a really successful off season. Um, but yeah, bringing up the legs, and this time around, it's bringing up the glutes. So
Okay.
yeah, So we can all use more glutes in wellness.
I think it's so funny because as the male divisions progress, it's all about striations, but in the wellness, it's more of I'm going to say roundness and fullness, whether that's the proper terminology or not, where you don't want striated glutes.
You don't, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because I think it's cool. And to have that amount of muscle density, like, and thinner skin because, water gets pulled out of the
Sure.
skin. It's inevitable that we all have those striations in wellness if you're conditioned to the degree, but
Yep.
it's about the peak week manipulation of carbing up, manipulation of salt and water to create that fullness. We don't flex our glutes, and we're not really supposed to flex our legs in a sense,
Okay.
but to have that amount of muscle, it's my husband calls it a unicorn division, because it's like they
Okay.
want us to be very full of muscle, in the lower region, but no striations. We need to have a little bit of water in between the muscle and the
Yep.
skin. So it's definitely a tricky division. It's the people who can peak wellness are just they're absolute geniuses in my head because of the specifics that they're looking for.
So how often? Because obviously we're on Instagram together. How often do you train your upper body? Because I feel like you're always posting lower half, or do you ever
Yeah,
train
I
upper
don't.
half?
I don't. My shoulders are pretty developed, especially when I get lean. I get lean upper body first, kind of leans out first in prep.
Yep.
So you can see it. You can see like you'll see it when I get at the gym. You'll see it when I get closer to show.
Yep.
Yeah, everything is just pumped. Even if I'm just like changing out the weights on the leg press, like my arms are just like jacked. So we really want to kind of tone that down. My feedback was a little bit off the shoulders from my last show. So, and then if you bring down the upper body, the lower body kind of illusions to looking bigger. So we're
Yep.
kind of looking to streamline that wellness look.
Do you want to know why most bodybuilders resist getting their blood work done when they're taking steroids? It's because they're afraid of knowing just how out of control their health markers are getting when running a cycle. What if I told you this way of doing things is outdated and now you can keep your blood work in check while on cycle? Here at Leviathan Nutrition, we have formulated our products specifically to cover these needs, coming up with the most effective formulas to cover your bases available on the market.
So no, to answer your question, no, I just lift the weights to put them on the leg press. That's it.
As a wellness competitor, is it hard to find? Because I look at wellness in bikini, even though kind of same methodology. Is it hard to keep at least a balance? Because I'm sure at one point there's going to be a tipping point where wellness, your bottom half, is going to be too over dominant for your upper half. Is it hard finding that balance? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does make sense for sure. And there are girls that kind of, take it to I don't want to say the extreme because I think it's cool to see. Like, I really like those kind of like looking at those girls, but
Yep.
you have to, a friend of mine who actually did North Americans, that was her feedback was that they couldn't award her mass in her lower body. She had huge quads, huge hamstrings, just
Yep.
a huge lower body in comparison to her upper. And, she didn't place as well as, she wanted to, of course, because of that feedback. They just can't award that, which I respect in the NPC and the IFBB because it's like I said, it's kind of taking those extremes. But yeah, you have to figure that out. And unfortunately, when you're in off season, there's like that level of fluff that we can't really see what we've built until we've actually shredded it down in prep.
Yep.
So sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. But there's posing tricks too to kind of make things look smaller or
Sure.
bigger. And tweak things and make I always say posing is an illusion. It's all about your highlight reel and what you want to show the judges and what your you hide your flaws and you just showcase the best. So there's ways to do that for sure.
When you train legs, do you do glutes and hams together, or is it each one a different day?
Yeah, so I do. To answer your question, I'm always hitting glutes on all of my leg days. So right now my split is hamstrings and glutes, which is like a hamstring focused, but I do hit glutes. Quads and glutes, so same thing, quad focused, but I do hit the glutes. a full-on glute day. So it's just all glutes.
Hmm.
And then what I'll do is I'll kind of just do like stretching on the fourth day, with like a little bit of a pump, I would say. Nothing like,
Okay.
there's no PRs, there's no, I mean, it's still intense in the sense. And it'll be primarily glutes, hamstrings. I kind of touch like every portion of the lower body.
Do you feel that people that are just entering, I should say people, females that are just starting to work out, as I'll say the
Mhm.
weekend warrior, just trying to better themselves,
Yeah.
I see them a lot doing hip thrusts, and they have 2 plates on each side, 3 plates on each side. I mean, what advice do you have? Because again, I think they're putting too much stress on the poundage and not on the form, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you want to have that mind to muscle. I actually just worked out with a girl the other day and I said, you know what, are you, and I kept checking in with her. I was like, where are you feeling it? Where are you feeling it? Because large weights are very, very impressive. But if you're not feeling your muscle contracting, you're not
Yep.
feeling that burn, you're just trying to muscle up that weight. It's not really effective in my opinion. It's very cool to watch girls like PRing, plates on plates on plates. But I always
Yeah.
wonder, like, are they feeling it in their glutes? Maybe they are, and that's amazing. They're really strong. But like you said, I think the form is definitely a priority. I do think that you should push your limits to, adding more weight, but
Mhm.
you should also have that mind muscle connection to your muscles, because if you're not feeling it in your muscles, then it's not really doing anything. It might be doing something. It may be adding muscle to your obliques, which we don't
Sure.
want, of course, in wellness. It may be, straightening your back a little bit, negatively. So, I mean, it's not, you want to do the exercise for the purpose of the exercise. Like, you want to grow your glutes. Okay. You got to feel them burn. So that's just my advice to girls that do that. I mean, it is cool for the gram, but at the end of the day, when you're stepping on stage, and if the girls want to step on stage one day, nobody's asking us, how much we hip thrust. No one's asking us how much we squat.
Yep.
They're just looking at our physiques. So we're trying to build the physiques. We're not power lifters in that sense.
And and I think that's where we mature as weightlifters. And when we start off, I think it's all about the poundages, as you said, the gram, the optics. But then as you get older, you really understand it's more about the movement, the time under tension, the quality of the rep ranges, and less on the poundage. Because sometimes the less poundage will give you just the same physique, or if not better than those crazy weights.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I was just talking to my husband about that, a few months ago. I was like, I did CrossFit for so many years, and I was benching 180 and squatting 350, and like very impressive numbers, and hip thrusting. I mean, not hip thrusting, but doing thrusters at
Yeah.
like almost 200 pounds and like easily. But I was muscling it all up, and I was never. I was very pleased with my body. I'm very confident in my physique at all stages of it. But I wasn't as happy as I am now with my physique, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Mhm.
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So walk us through prep. What are your meals like? I mean, obviously, I have a coach. Are you high carb? Keto, not keto, but low carb. Like, what does the typical prep look like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I do have a coach. It's Jonas Jimena from Team Make Moves.
Okay.
His wife is a Nicole Salazar. She's a wellness pro. She's very impressive. They both train very, very hard, and I call him my mad scientist, my wellness dad, mad scientist, because it's week to week. I mean, in
Yeah.
prep, I'm checking in with him every week, and if things are kind of stagnant, then things change. If things are progressing, then nothing changes. So it's week to week, and it all depends. There's low days, there's low carb days for sure in prep. Obviously, depending on how you present that week, you get more low carb days. If nothing's kind of moving.
Yep.
Um, but on leg days, it's pretty substantial, the amount of carbs that I was eating. But there, like I said, prep is a grind, and there was a lot of, in this last prep, I I plateaued a little bit. So there was a need for me to, kind of get things revving. So there was a lot of low carb days.
Yeah.
But like I said, it was very different. And every prep that I've experienced has been really different. But for the majority of them, it's still the basics: the chicken and rice, the tilapia, the asparagus, the oats, cream of rice, protein. It's bodybuilding basics all around.
When you decided to start competing, were you already a good eater, or was it the shock of probably eating more than what you expected? Or were you already kind of eating high numbers, if that makes sense? Because females that I talk with, that seems to be the biggest hurdle, is they think they're eating and not eating enough.
Yeah. So luckily, my husband, he's really, really into fitness.
Yep.
He's competed. He competed back when I was doing CrossFit competitively. So like we kind of had like opposite, time frames,
Yeah.
and which was like 10 years ago or so. And so he knows how to eat. He cooks chicken in bulk. He eats chicken and rice. The same old. He eats like a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
So it was really easy for me to go into prep. And when I say easy, I mean like no foods really changed for me. I was still eating chicken and rice before. I was still, eating oats and things like that. So nothing was really like a shock to me. I think the level of hunger that you need to get to in prep, that was new. But also it's very motivating in the sense that you wake up and you're like another pound less or whatever it is, a new low,
Yeah.
or you see a new line and it's like motivating. But yeah, that was a little bit of I don't want to say shock, but it was a little different to like, oh, I have to go to bed hungry. Like what, I've never gone to bed hungry, so it was definitely just a little bit of a difference. But now I realize that like you go to bed hungry, you're going to wake up like a better physique. And to get through that difficult time sculpts you mentally
Yep.
into a stronger competitor.
So I think it was your husband in the posing room the other day. Is he getting ready for a show, or is he just kind of fooling
He
around in there, or
is.
what?
Yeah, no, he is. He's going to do Rhode Island. He actually did Rhode Island show at Twin River Casino 10 years ago. So that was like I think
Okay.
his last show. So he's going to like do like he wants to see like what he's built in the last 10 years, kind of just
Okay.
doing things on his own. He is working with a coach. But he's just wanting to do it. So I'm going to be the show day wife this time around.
Classic physique, or because I think that's what he did in the past, correct?
Yeah, he did men's physique. They
Men's
didn't have
physique.
classic at the time, but he's going to do classic this time. Yeah.
Good for him. So I know there are a few
Hmm.
other people in the gym doing Rhode Island as well, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of camaraderie or how many people you recognize, in
Yeah.
May coming up here.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of people doing. I mean, men and females. So it's going to be a really good show. We're going to have a really good like team from Uncaged, kind of going to that show. So it'll be nice.
Yeah. Talk to us about cardio. I mean, do you do a lot of cardio, fasted, non-fasted? What's your cardio like?
So currently, I'm not really doing that much cardio. It's only like 10 minutes a day.
Okay.
I do have steps. I do like 10,000 steps on a rest day, no, and 10 minutes of cardio. And then I do 6,000 steps on like a leg day, or training day.
Okay.
My cardio in prep was pretty. I want to say I don't want to say it's high. It was high this last time because it wasn't. The most I've done in a prep was 110 minutes. So like I don't know. I think I did like an hour and 15 minutes of cardio this last prep. I was like, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
When it gets to be that long, you kind of have to split it up.
Yeah.
You just have to, and you should too, because like after a while, I mean, you want to keep your heart rate to whatever the targeted heart rate your coach wants it at. So, it's a lot easier to do that if you like split it up. So, I was doing fasted and post workout. I always tell my clients, listen, like I understand, like there's science to fasted, there's science to post workout. If you're trying to build muscle if you want to do fasted, if it's like a good way to start your day and it energizes you, like go for it. But
Yeah.
ideally you want to do cardio like post workout. You want to put all your energy into your lifts rather than just your cardio, first thing. But
Definitely.
like I say to my clients, like just do your cardio, like just do it. That's the most important time to do it, is just to do it. Whether it works better for you fasted, or if it works better for you, post workout, just do that.
So now if you were off during prep, does your coach manipulate your food, or does he have you up the cardio? Or she, I guess, should say. Let me rephrase that.
It could be both. It could be, a little bit more cardio. It could be less food, less carbs, less fats.
Right.
It could be a mixture of both. It could be one or the other. It all kind of depends. And it did change, week to week as I, was plateauing. It's funny that you asked that, because when I did plateau, my coach had actually, I don't know if I should say this because everybody's gonna be like, why can't I have that? My coach prescribed 5 Krispy Kreme donuts to have like once, like
Shock the system.
one donut a day for 5 days. Like that'll be my last meal.
Yeah.
And I know the reason why he did it, but I was just like, what? Like I was looking at my phone and I asked Derek, I was like, is this a typo? And I asked my coach Jonas, I go, is this a typo? Like, was this meant for somebody else? And he was like, no. I was like 2 weeks out of my last show. And he's like, yeah, go get, 5 donuts. You're going to have one every single night. And things moved
Yeah.
because I was holding a lot of stress. Just he was my new coach. I was like questioning myself if I was ready. I was just overthinking my last prep a little too much. I
Mhm.
went through like a ton of changes too. So I think I was holding on to body weight and, water, and, my cortisol levels are probably through the roof. And he was just
Yeah.
like, all right, I need to chill her out and give her a donut. And it worked. And I dropped like weight like that. So like, to answer your question, like it could be cardio, it could be food, or it could be something deeper than that that's going on that, once you hit a plateau, coach has to add or subtract from your plan. He's a mad scientist, like, and a lot of
Yeah.
coaches are, you know.
Julia, you kind of have to mention offline that you're in the mental health field. Okay. Now, how do you keep yourself mentally sane during prep? Because again, there's highs and lows. And then the next question is, how do you keep you mentally ready on game day? I'll say. I know it's been a little while, but how do you keep yourself in that zone or mentally fixated?
Yeah, so obviously there's like I'm not perfect, I'm human, and I've definitely like made mistakes throughout preps. Like none of my preps have been perfect 100% at all. I don't claim to be. But I always take peak week off from work.
Okay.
Um, and I do try to, like, my caseload is month to month in the sense that we have X amount of assignments for every case that we have to complete every month. So I try to kind of stack it in the beginning of the month and do as much as I can if my show's at the end of the month, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I try to kind of I look at it from like, from a couple months prior, and I'm like, how can I plan that month so it's the least amount of stress on my plate? And that's been working very, very well. Just taking peak week off and just enjoying like the carb up, the workouts and all of that, and packing for shows and getting ready. I have a ton of lists. I'm so A-type when it comes to shows and getting ready for shows. I have a list of like how to skin prep for the months before, how to whiten your teeth, and
Oh
like
wow.
routine of it. Yeah. So, I have packing lists. I have show day packing lists. I have like, if I'm traveling to a show, like on a plane, like what I need to pack in my carry-on versus, my checked bag. It's like it's structured because there is a sense of brain fog as you get, closer to, and you're overstimulated by like everything. I feel,
Yep.
when you're lower body fat, you're just like, everything is kind of irritating, in the sense that you just have to breathe, you have to remind yourself, I chose this, like nobody is doing this with me and nobody's making me do this. I chose this very luxurious, privileged sport to be a part of, and it's going to be tough. And, you just make lists, you try to stay as organized as possible. And as far as work and being in the mental health field, I've been in it for now 11 years. So, not to say that like my sensitivity chip is like gone, but I'm better and more mature at kind of leaving work at work.
Yep.
and kind of debriefing myself and getting into like the zone. I when I work out, that's the only thing on my mind.
Yep.
When I'm with my husband, that's the only thing on my mind. So I try to really separate things as much as possible. Of course, I'm not perfect, and things happen all the time, but that's the goal, is to just separate things and focus your energy on that one thing.
Talk to us about your competition suit. Like, sometimes people don't realize how much goes into it. Maybe if you want to tell us how you pick your colors, the fits, like all that good stuff that goes into, that people don't realize.
It's so much. It's a beauty pageant with muscles. I was just telling one of my clients, like, we're judged head to toe, in presentation and skin, and makeup and our suit colors and how they look on our skin with our hair, just everything. So the way that I picked my first suit was green. I love the color green.
Mhm.
It's my favorite color. I have a ton of green in my closet, so it's not something that I'm like very unfamiliar with as far as the colorway. I knew I wanted green. I looked at the backdrop because I'm crazy. I look at the backdrop of the shows like previous years
Oh,
just to
okay.
see if they like clash, because some of you have to kind of be careful because some of the backdrops they clash with suits, and some
Yeah.
suits don't look good with them. So I really, do my research in that sense to look at the backdrops and see what works. I did a blue suit for the Arnold, because the backdrop was like, I knew it was going to be red, white, and blue.
Mhm.
So because that was like their theme of that year. And then I went back to the green suit for North Americans because they had like a black backdrop. And I'm, like I said, I'm crazy. So and I follow a lot of wellness competitors, pros and amateurs. And I
Yeah.
know like who does like the shows, the national shows. And I saw a lot of girls wear green at North Americans, and I was like, okay, let's bring the green back. I love the green. Like, let's do it. So, but you're right. A lot goes into like picking the suit color, and there's so many companies out there. There's really some great companies that make suits. And it really is. It's like a huge investment. It's like the bulk of the money is on the suit.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
the first person to actually bring up the background, because nobody I ask the same question to a lot of the female competitors, and it's, similar to what you said, sometimes what their ethnicity is, what their skin is
Yeah.
gonna what skin tone is, favorite
Yep.
color, but nobody's ever brought up the backdrop, though. That's very, like, when you think about it, it's mindless, but you're the first
Yeah.
person to bring that to attention.
Yeah, yeah, it's super important. I mean, if you have like a red background, I know like Toronto Pro Show, it's a red background. So you won't see a lot of red. It'll kind
Yep.
of wash you out with the tan and then the red suit. It'll wash you out a little bit. And I'm like really, really crazy about that stuff. I'm like, I want to present my best foot forward, head to toe. If that's what I'm being judged on, I need to know exactly, the best way to bring the best look.
Of course. And we know it's always important to pose and whatnot as consistently as possible. But talk to us about, obviously, your shoes. Are you walking around because it sounds like you work from home a lot, possibly. Are you walking around the house consistently with the shoes on? You walk around the gym? I don't think I've seen you in the gym with your shoes on.
No, no, not yet. But you do. I mean, I'm very comfortable in heels. I've worn heels. I'm not very much. I'm a tomboy, but when I get dressed up, I get dressed up. So I'm very comfortable in heels. I've worn heels for years of my life. It does take practice, and I always tell my girls, just do everything. Vacuum the house in them. Wash dishes. Break them in. Luckily, the Shoe Fairy makes really, really comfortable heels. So some of them feel like you're walking on a cloud, to be
Okay.
perfectly honest. And they're already kind of broken in already and very soft. But you still have to get used to it, right? Because you're going to be nervous on stage. I always tell the girls that I pose, practice on everything. Practice on carpet, practice on hardwood, practice on,
Yeah.
in the gym floor, on rubber, practice, on all types of elements, because you just never know until the day of show what you're going to be presented on. So, there's a lot of girls that like, oh my gosh, like trip on the carpet because they haven't, practiced on carpet. And it's like, it breaks my heart to see. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you got to
Yeah.
practice on all elements.
Julia, I'm aware of kind of the cost of the suits, but I'm not going to ask you for direct. But for shoes, are we talking a few hundred? Are we talking high hundreds? Like, what is shoes average?
Yeah, so I mean, there's two types of shoes. I mean, they're all pretty much the clear heels. They want it streamlined completely, and it's a really sharp look when you look at all the girls, and they're all kind of like you're not looking at the shoes necessarily, you're looking at their
Yeah.
physique. So it's nice. I understand why. So there's bedazzled ones that could cost you up to like 150.
Oh, okay.
But then there's the regular like non-jeweled shoes, and there I've seen them like at 95 or below. Sometimes you could find them on like Amazon or
Yep.
other shoe companies. But I love Shoe Fairy. Shoe Fairy's been my go-to.
So when females are thinking of getting into the sport, so if you do quick math, just between probably hair, nails, makeup, suit, shoes, you're probably average 15, 2,000, maybe a little bit north on average.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if not more, the registration fees, the NPC card.
Yep.
I always tell first time competitors that I coach or I pose, rent a suit if you can, because you don't know if you're going to love it,
Mhm.
So, and I've worn suits to multiple shows. So it's like, it's not just going to be like a one and done, type of purchase, but they're very expensive. I would put more money into the shoes and rent a suit if I was a first time competitor, not knowing if I wanted to compete or not, because
Okay.
I mean, you want comfortable feet, but the suits you can get away with a rental. The tan, the tan is upwards of almost $200 when all is said and done.
Okay.
Makeup and hair. If you're not blessed like me to know how to do my makeup, I always have to pay, somebody. So that's about, at least 300 with hair and makeup, registration fees, and they go up in nationals too. So it's a very, very expensive sport.
Do you actually physically tan prior to the pro tan or the spray tan, or do you just go right in regular skin tone and coat up?
Yeah, so I've done both.
Okay.
And I actually prefer doing like a couple tans, nothing crazy, maybe like once or twice a week, just to I like the feeling and I like the way it looked. So, just to make me feel my best, I do it.
Gotcha. So,
Hmm.
Julia, I want to talk about a topic that's very rampant right now, both highs and lows. We mentioned you're a coach. Okay. Now, what should people look for, whether it's from your experience or just in general, when people are looking for a coach? What should they look for? Maybe what questions should they ask? Because I don't want to be negative, but almost everyone's a coach nowadays, and it seems like a
Everyone,
percentage of good
everyone.
ones are hard, not hard to find, but you got to kind of scale it down if you know what I mean.
Yeah. The first thing that I would do is I would talk to that coach's clients. I mean, obviously see what they've achieved. I mean, if you want to become a pro, how many pro cards have they, accomplished?
Yep.
What do their athletes look like? Do you like the look of their athletes? One thing that really attracted me to Jonas and his team of wellness girls was that they looked very feminine. They were very feminine. Their shapes were all beautiful. They had full glutes, full legs. I knew that about him. I knew about him before, but I even asked some of his clients, like, "What's your feedback? Like, tell me everything, the good, the bad, whatever."
Yep.
And I would do that when I was looking for a different coach as well. And I went to other coaches and I asked the same thing. And Jonas and I just clicked. But I think that's where you start. You look at the athletes, see
Yep.
what the accomplishments of the coach are, and DM athletes. I've had people DM me all the time about Jonas, and I tell them, my experience, and that's the way to go. You just DM people, and they're more than happy to answer the questions for the most part.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I tell people too, is kind of what you said, do references, but an important question for me is ask each client like what their diet is like. Cause I hear a lot of horror stories where everyone's on the same diet, same one size fits all. So I think that's a true test of time that if Julia, your coach has you on low carbs and the next person has you on high fats, you know that they're actually catering to each individual.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, like I said, bodybuilding basics are going to be the same for the most part. Like, the cream of rice, the
Yep.
chicken, the rice, but it's the quantities. It's obviously catering to that athlete and what they need that week, depending on how they checked in or the progress that they've made or haven't made. So essentially, like we've all kind of like I'm eating probably the same thing as Nick Walker, right? But like
Hmm.
our amounts are the same, and week to week we're just looking different. So our coaches are, you know, shifting things for us. That's the customization, I think. Um, so that's definitely an important question to ask. Like how do they communicate after a check-in? How fast do they communicate? Are they approachable? Are they available? Do they come to shows? How and if they don't come to shows, because there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of coaches out there, but some are local and some aren't. And that's not to discredit any non-local coaches. You can have the best
Sure.
coach and they could be halfway around the world. So that's important too, to find out how they communicate and how quick they are to give feedback, things like that. Those are really important factors too.
So now that we're on 2025, it's kind of hard to say that
I
in
know.
hindsight. What's next for you? Do you have shows in sight, or are you looking yet, or kind of what's the next plans for you?
Yeah, so we're looking to aim for a couple of shows, depending on how I do, probably in the summer.
Okay.
That's what we're aiming for. We have a couple shows kind of in our minds right now. Hopefully, to start, I'll be starting prep in March. Um, he wants to do a really short prep, and I'm just like, I told him I'm going to be totally trustworthy of everything that he gives me. So I'm like, okay, if you think I can do a short prep, you have faith in me and I will, I'll deliver. But, I've always been used to like longer preps, like 20-week preps. So like
Yeah.
short preps that are almost half of that. I'm like, whoa, I don't know if I can deliver,
Wow.
but he has faith in me. So that's, like I said, that's all that matters. And, so yeah, that's the plan, is to hopefully snag the pro card and
Right.
maybe do a pro show as well this year, if that's in the pages, and if not, then you just get better.
I know wellness is fairly new. Are there masters divisions in wellness yet, or no?
There is, yeah. There's Masters Olympia, which has the wellness division as well.
In Tokyo.
There's
Yep.
Yep, there's a Masters Pro show in Pittsburgh right after North Americans, like the day after.
Okay.
So anybody actually who gets their pro card at North Americans can compete the next day as a pro, which is pretty
Oh,
cool if you're at Masters. And then they have, for nationals, they have, I think it's about 4 national shows with Masters divisions that you can obtain your pro card in. So yeah, I
okay.
would I would most likely aim for those. It just increases my chances. So I would
Sure.
do like 35 plus and 40 plus as well as open.
What's the big picture? Obviously, pro card. Do you want to be Olympia stage, top 10, or like what's the big rub the crystal ball and what's the big picture?
I mean, the Olympia is such a dream, of course. Like
Yeah.
that is I would hope everybody's ultimate goal in bodybuilding. It's such a sacrifice driven sport, and it's really tough, and like the end goal is like the Olympia or like the Arnold. Getting an invite to the Arnold would be amazing. My end goal, though, honestly, I would be thrilled to photograph at the Olympia, because I know that being 40 years old, almost 41, and I just started bodybuilding. So, and I'm not saying that that's old by any means,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Robin Mays is probably rolling her eyes at me right now. But I know that that's not old, but after a while, you can't really do it forever. So I want to stay in the industry. And what really makes me happy is photography, and to photograph Olympians would be like my dream, my
Yeah.
dream. Yeah. Or even just photograph at like a pro show. That would be such a dream of mine. And I know that that's like taking a hard left and not competing anymore, but I mean, I'd still be involved in it somehow, some way, from coaching to helping girls pose to helping girls with presentation, picking suit colors,
Yep.
whatever it may be. I'm still going to have a hand in it when I do stop competing, but the ultimate goal is definitely to be, part of the media.
Are you familiar with the name Alex Ardente? I don't know if you've heard of that name before.
No, no.
I'll have to send him to you. So he's in his probably late 50s. He started as a competitor. He's from Italy. He's been in the US for many years. Started as a competitor, but then
Mhm.
he moved over to photography when the magazines were still prevalent. He's like one of
Yeah.
those behind the scenes, just he's doing everything behind the scenes, behind the camera now, video, photos, everything else. I'll have to send you some of his collateral, but
Please.
kind of similar to what you said. He didn't turn pro, phenomenal person, phenomenal body, but said, you know what, photography is my second passion, and I'll now make it my first.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's like, plus they're Olympians are easy to edit. They're like perfect. So it's like, it's easy to edit and it's fun. I actually did a couple photo shoots for a few bodybuilders at Uncaged this past weekend. And one of the girls said, wow, you have like the biggest smile on your face. And I'm like, you know, I'm just doing what I love. Like I'm
Yep.
making you feel your best for everything you've worked hard for in your physique. And, you know, I'm loving this. Like, I know the poses that they need to be doing. I know the angles, you know, just being so aware of my own body and being in bodybuilding helps me, you know, make them feel their best in different angles and poses and things like that. So,
Do you feel most comfortable in black and white? I haven't seen too much, but I seem to see more black and white.
yeah, I love black and white for
Yeah.
sure. It's very like, and especially at Uncaged, like I'm very, I have an editing style for sure,
Okay.
but I really talk to the client or the person that I'm doing the photo shoot with, and whatever their energy kind of shifts me into, like that's the way that I kind of edit.
Yep.
So like with Kyle, like when I did his shots, like he just reminds me of like Hunter Labrada, and I was thinking like
Oh wow.
old, like
Good
yeah,
analogy.
yeah, he's very like grainy, like in the shots. So I was like, okay, I gotta like, you know, make this like, and he's like very hardcore into bodybuilding. So I'm like, I gotta make this like very like that vibe. And I was just feeling the black and whites for him.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's just I do like black and whites a lot, but yeah, I kind of tend to like customize it, if you will, to that specific person's energy.
So do you always carry a camera in your bag when you're done and just kind of keep an eye out, say you want some shots or?
No, but I think I got to start doing that because a lot of people have been, you know, asking me to take some shots of them, and I'm like, of course, like I love doing it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and it kind of gets the word out too, and like that's the ultimate goal for sure. So I got to start, you know, diving into that and showing what I got.
I love it. Love
Yeah.
it. Julia, as we wind down, there's a section of the show where I throw out 3 random questions. Obviously, you have not been prepped on them. We can assure that to everybody now. Nothing crazy.
Okay.
We'll start off with a light one here. What's your favorite leg exercise?
Hmm. Can I pick glutes?
Sure.
Hip thrust for sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's not my favorite, but if I had to pick one to do for the rest of my life, it has to be that.
Okay. You mentioned that obviously we talked about Thor's hammer earlier, and obviously you and your husband are Marvel people.
Yeah.
If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Ooh. Probably making all tasty foods like calorie free. That's such a competitor answer.
Wow, come on, give me something more though. Give me something a little bit more
uh,
in the outside the world of fitness.
you know what? I think I would fly. I would fly.
Okay.
Because I love traveling, and yeah, I would fly. I would go to Poland. I would visit my family. I would go back to Hawaii. I would fly everywhere. I'd be a bird.
Okay. Last one here. What movie or show can you watch over and over and over?
So Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, that
Really?
documentary. Yeah, it never gets old to me. I watch it every prep. It's yeah, I mean it's Michael Jordan, so I mean what's not to love? But it's a good documentary. So I never gets old to us.
So you're still young, and I think you're teetering on the generation though. So LeBron or Michael, or I'm assuming you're going to say Michael with what you just mentioned.
Michael, Michael Jordan,
Okay.
hands down for sure.
Julia, it's truly been a pleasure. Is there anything maybe we haven't covered that you want to let the fans, the listeners want to know about? Maybe something that we overlooked. Otherwise, I'll kind of give the floor to you as we wind down.
Yeah, no, I just want to like thank, you know, all the support. The support has been really just kind of mind blowing and crazy. Like I have people from all over reaching out, and just especially on like show day or as it gets close to show day, like there's a lot of support that comes out of like the most random places on this world. And that's the really cool thing about the social media and bodybuilding, and like we're all kind of like sisters and brothers in iron, you know, if you will. We're all
Yeah.
kind of, you know, leading towards the same goal essentially, in more ways than not. But it's yeah, I just want to thank everybody for it. And, I try to thank everybody, separately, but like that really does drive me, especially on those tough days.
You want to give any? I know you mentioned some people throughout the show. Anybody specifically you want to give shout outs to?
Definitely VMI. Frank and Tom have been so good to me at VMI. Ryan, um, I want to thank their support is like unmatched. I want to thank Jocelyn and Dion. They're the owners of another sponsorship that I have is Grip Socks.
Okay.
I like to you'll see me in the gym with like just no shoes on and those socks because they just grip. They're amazing. I'll have to get you a pair, Sean, because they're just going to blow your mind on leg day. Definitely my husband, shout out to him, because without your significant other, what can you do? Especially in the world of bodybuilding, it's a tough sport for the competitor, but it's even tougher on significant others for sure. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And Julia, most importantly, where can people follow you on the gram?
Yeah, at jmagdalena _wellness.
And are you taking on any clients now, or if people want to contact you for coaching, are you still open for new business?
Yeah, I am. I'm open to posing clients. I know that the season is up and running already. I have a lot of posing clients right now, which is great to see people really taking importance in their presentation, which is important, especially for wellness, fit model, and bikini. I don't do figure posing. I do like source that out for anybody that wants that. But I do coaching. I will be shutting off my coaching soon when prep starts, just so I can really give everybody my really full attention and the quality that they deserve in coaching.
Perfect. Well, again, Julia, it's truly been a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you in the gym, and obviously we'll have more podcasts together here. And for everybody listening and watching, thank you so much for supporting the brand. Follow me at SupTalk _radio. Happy New Year. Have a great rest of the year. Take care.
Thank you.